7 countries you can no longer enter without military clearance. No entry without orders. They are still on the map. But try to cross the border and you'll meet armed checkpoints, no entry signs, and soldiers who don't answer to customs. These aren't just war zones. They're permanently sealed regions. Civilians are banned. Journalists disappear. And no visa can get you in unless your name appears on a military clearance list. In 2025, these countries no longer regulate tourists. They regulate access to information. This is your updated list. 7 nations you can no longer enter without clearance from the armed forces. When sovereignty turns into secrecy, global borders have always been political. But today, a growing number of countries are redrawing their borders not with diplomacy, but with armed exclusion zones. These areas don't appear on commercial travel maps, and their status is rarely discussed in press conferences. But they exist. They are expanding. In some cases, the closures are due to open conflict. In others, it's about internal suppression, foreign military presence, or geopolitical posturing. What unites them is a common reality. No civilian may enter without military clearance. These are not temporary restrictions. In many cases, the military is now the governing authority, and entry is determined by classified protocol. Even aid workers, unobservers, and accredited journalists have been turned away or detained. According to a leaked 2025 intelligence summary shared by an independent coalition of watchdog NGOs, at least 27 regions globally are currently sealed off from outside civilian presence. Of those, 7 countries have declared or implemented military-administered exclusion zones across full provinces or national borders. Some are known for it. Others have shifted, suddenly closing areas that were previously accessible just months ago. This list is based on satellite monitoring of checkpoint expansion, international NOTAM, and border access alerts, whistleblower reports from within the armed forces, and travel blackout zones classified by insurance and diplomatic services in this report. We examined 7 countries that have effectively vanished behind barbed wire and orders from generals where the only legal way in now requires clearance through a military chain of command. We begin where the sealed border is older than the Cold War, and where no foreign civilian has crossed freely in over 70 years. 1. North Korea. The original sealed state North Korea has never been open. But in 2025, even its few controlled access points have effectively shut down. Not even tightly monitored diplomatic travel is guaranteed anymore. The entire nation now operates as a military-administered zone, and access when granted is routed exclusively through the Ministry of State Security, not the Foreign Ministry. Following the collapse of diplomatic backchannels in 2024 and increasing nuclear posture signals, the regime has moved to sever all non-strategic foreign entry. Embassies in Pyongyang have been scaled back to skeleton staff. The World Food Program has been expelled. And even Chinese engineers and traders have seen transit rights revoked near military facilities in Sinuiju and Hyazan. According to a leaked South Korean military intercept, Kim Jong-un's government issued a red directive to provincial commanders to treat all unauthorized crossings as enemy activity. This includes regions once used for unofficial trade, such as the northern river ports and mountain passes. Internally, foreign residents and aid workers are gone. Internet is sealed. GPS access is jammed. Military convoys move without notice. And satellite imagery has detected a surge in underground facility construction, especially near known missile testing zones. If you are granted access and that list is shorter than ever, you are assigned a military escort, is denied independent movement, and subjected to total surveillance. Even humanitarian missions require clearance from both the Korean People's Army and the Internal Counterintelligence Bureau. In effect, North Korea is no longer just closed. It's weaponized. It's isolation, geographically, diplomatically, and strategically. There is no visa. There is only clearance. And only from the top. 2. Eritrea, the militarized nation that forgot the exit. Eritrea is often described as Africa's North Korea. But unlike Pyongyang, it draws almost no global attention. And that's exactly how the regime wants it. As of 2025, no journalist, NGO, or foreign observer can enter Eritrea without military liaison. The only entry point, Asmara International Airport, is under direct command of the Ministry of Defense. Once inside, Movement beyond the capital is almost impossible without written clearance from military district commanders. Why the restrictions? Because Eritrea is not just governed by the military, is the military. National service is mandatory and indefinite. Most government roles, construction projects, and logistics chains are staffed by conscripts. The civilian sector is a skeleton, propped up by the defense structure. Satellite imagery and defector testimony reveal an intensification of border defenses with Sudan and Ethiopia, especially after the Tigray War and subsequent regional instability. Entire provinces, like Gash Barka and southern Red Sea, are now treated as closed operational zones, inaccessible even to international aid missions. A 2025 UN Human Rights Report, quietly shelved under political pressure, warned that Eritrea is becoming a black zone for civil liberties, where no foreign verification is possible and local populations are cut off from the outside world. Even dual nationals have been denied re-entry or forcibly conscripted upon arrival. Those who speak publicly about the system risk disappearance. Eritrea's closure isn't a crisis response, it's a permanent posture. The armed forces control the borders, the ministries, the press, and now, who sees what inside the country. And in this sealed republic, permission to enter is not diplomatic. It's tactical. 3. Syria invisible front lines, closed corridors. Syria is not one country. It is 4 overlapping security zones, governed not by the state but by shifting militaries and foreign backers. And as of 2025, access to these regions is determined not by visa offices, but by chain of command. The Assad regime controls the West but only in name. Most transit through Damascus requires coordination with Syrian military intelligence. Foreigners are routinely denied entry unless part of a state delegation or a press pool under government supervision. In the northeast, territory controlled by Kurdish forces known as the Autonomous Administration of North and East Syria is technically accessible, but due to Turkish drone activity, Russian patrols, and U.S. troop deployments, the entire region is now classified by most embassies as a military conflict zone. Even the previously accessible humanitarian corridors near Raqqa and Deir ez-Zor are now under Russian-Iranian joint control, according to leaked EU security bulletins. Clearance must come not from local councils, but from on-site Russian commanders or IRGC liaisons. Such permission is almost never granted. Western intelligence sources report a sharp decline in satellite signal traffic from key border towns, suggesting a blackout of international observation capacity. This includes Dera, Homs, and Idlib, where drone strikes, militia battles, and chemical incident investigations have all been shrouded in secrecy. Even NGOs with years of field experience are being forced out or reclassified as potential foreign agents. Local staff are surveilled or conscripted. The result is chilling. No entry without embedded military access and no guarantee of safety even with it. Syria may be fragmented on paper, but across all zones one truth remains. The soldier now controls the gate. 4. Kashmir Valley under command. India's Jammu and Kashmir region has long been contested, but in 2025, it has become more than disputed. It has become closed since the revocation of Article 370 in 2019. India has steadily increased its military presence in the region. But recent developments, escalated militant activity, cross-border fire, and geopolitical shifts have triggered a total lockdown on foreign civilian access. Foreign journalists, human rights monitors, and NGOs are now routinely denied entry to Kashmir. The few that are granted special clearance are escorted by military intelligence units and forbidden from unannounced movement. The Srinagar Valley is ringed with multi-layered checkpoints, mobile jamming systems, and 24/7 drone surveillance. Satellite images from March 2025 show the deployment of additional mountain artillery near the line of control, following a spike in Pakistani forward unit activity. Civilian travel across districts like Baramulla and Pulwama is now subject to biometric screening. And while domestic tourism to sanitized zones still occurs, foreign travelers, especially from countries critical of India's Kashmir policy, are blacklisted or rejected at the visa level. Leaked Indian Home Ministry documents reveal the existence of a Red Access Registry, a database of areas where all civilian entry, including by Indian nationals, requires clearance from either the Indian Army or Central Reserve Police Force. India insists the region is stable and secure. but everything about its access policy says otherwise. In Kashmir, the flag still flies, but the rules are written by the men with rifles. 5. Myanmar Invisible Wars. Forbidden territory since the 2021 coup, Myanmar has spiraled into civil conflict. But in 2025, what was once political unrest has evolved into territorial fragmentation under military command, particularly in the northern and western states. The regions of Kachin, Saigon, Chin, and northern Shan are now no-go zones for foreigners and even most Burmese civilians. The ruling junta has declared these provinces clearance operation areas, effectively suspending all civilian access. According to leaked ASEAN intelligence briefings, the military has deployed tactical drones, heavy artillery, and flame operations in dense forest terrain. Entire villages have been depopulated. Transit is only allowed with clearance from Myanmar's Office of Military Affairs Security, and, even then, it's only for aligned actors. International NGOs have been banned from direct entry. Convoys are rerouted to central Myanmar or turned back. A few UN-linked groups operate remotely through intermediaries, but their movement is monitored and sometimes cut mid-operation. Satellite thermal scans from late 2024 and early 2025 showed dozens of heat signatures. It's consistent with airstrikes and artillery shelling, far from any frontline reported in government briefings. Local witnesses contacted through encrypted networks describe regions under permanent blackout and rotating battalion control. The junta does not issue formal denials. It simply refuses to acknowledge these zones exist. Myanmar's civil war is not televised. It is hidden by geography, state violence, and military control over who gets in and who never comes out. There are no visas for Kachin. It's only war corridors. 6. Venezuela, the disputed border you can't approach in the jungles of Venezuela's southeast. A new front line is forming, one not declared, but quietly fortified. The target, the Essequibo region, claimed by Venezuela but administered by Guyana. In late 2024, the Maduro government held a referendum approving the incorporation of Essequibo. While largely symbolic, the aftermath has been anything but. Leaked Brazilian military briefings and satellite images confirm the presence of armored brigades, forward observation posts, and jungle road construction within 30 kilometers of the Guyanese border. The surrounding region, including in Delta and Mukuro, has been declared a temporary restricted zone, but no end date has been given. The Venezuelan Ministry of Defense has issued internal directives barring any foreign presence in the corridor. Journalists, NGOs, and even diplomatic observers are denied entry. Those who attempt to enter risk arrest under national security decrees passed in January 2025. Residents report increased drone activity, forced relocations, and military patrols using infrared night sweep, signs of operational staging rather than mere border control. Guyana, with U.S. and Brazilian support, has responded by militarizing its side. But the Venezuelan side remains opaque, controlled by armed units who answer to Caracas, not to local governance. The Essequibo frontier is now a security vacuum, and for outsiders, it is entirely closed unless cleared through the Venezuelan military chain of command. This is not war, but it is preparation. And in 2025, preparation means no eyes allowed. The buffer zones that don't exist on paper, China's internal regions, are tightly controlled, but some areas are now so militarized that civilian access is functionally impossible, especially for foreigners. In 2025, the two most sealed regions are Xinjiang and specific zones along the southern and western borders. Xinjiang, long under scrutiny for its re-education system and surveillance, is now off-limits without military or security clearance. Foreign journalists are barred, NGO access is non-existent, and even Chinese citizens require special identification to travel between districts. According to leaked internal communications from China's Ministry of State Security, the region has been redesignated as a stability maintenance special zone. Military outposts have increased, civilian movement is monitored via facial recognition, and drone sweeps patrol remote desert areas. Uyghur communities have been further fragmented, and foreign observation is completely restricted. Meanwhile, China has quietly declared temporary buffer zones along borders with India, Bhutan, and Myanmar. These zones, absent from public maps, are confirmed through high-resolution satellite imagery showing active trenching, camouflaged artillery, and modular military housing. Civilian access is blocked by PLA units operating under border patrol designations. Areas such as ACI Chin and eastern Arunachal Pradesh are now under what Beijing calls frontline regulation, code for unannounced troop movement and blocked access. Foreigners are not welcome. Chinese nationals are discouraged. Surveillance is total. And even diplomatic personnel require tiered military clearance to approach certain mountain roads and river valleys. These zones do not appear on tourist brochures, but they are very real and expanding. In China's buffer territories, entry is not denied. It's rendered impossible by silence. The invisible walls of the modern world borders used to be checkpoints. Now, they are lines of denial, not just to people, but to observation, truth, and accountability. From North Korea to Venezuela, from Eritrea to Xinjiang, access isn't controlled by embassies or border agents anymore. It's controlled by military units, operating under internal rules with no transparency and no appeal. And the world is adapting. Journalists can't report what they can't see. NGOs can't investigate where they can't go. Satellite images replace on-the-ground verification. Speculation becomes the only tool for understanding what happens in the black zones. What ties these 7 countries together isn't ideology, it isn't geography. It's the strategic sealing of territory, not in the middle of war, but as a prelude to something else. Some are hiding internal conflict. Some are building toward external confrontation. Others are simply removing scrutiny because unchecked power operates best in silence. What's most alarming is how normalized this has become. In 2025, it's no longer shocking when a government closes access to half a country. It's no longer rare for militaries to set the terms of entry. And if this trend continues, the world map will remain the same in shape, but different in meaning. Because you can't cross a line if that line is buried under surveillance, secrecy, and threat of arrest. The walls of the modern world are not always built of stone. Sometimes they're made of silence, clearance codes, and disappearing names. And one by one, those walls are going up.